Hello and welcome back to I Read Redux. Today, I'm starting a new series that I'm going to call Chocolate Tracks, because no, Stormin did not down age, this is in fact chocolate, and these are my tracks. So first on Chocolate Tracks, I want to discuss the Alan Parsons project, and a lot of their songs. In fact, only kind of one of their albums for now. I'll pretty much do one album per video, but I'm just going to talk about, one whole album right now, which... No, it's not going to be their first album, which was released in 1976. I find that album really weird and uninteresting. There's only really one good song on there, at least for me, and apparently for most people. And it really relies on other, reading material to, make sense of it, to find it fun. And, well, I'm not all about that. I'm all about just the music, how it sounds, how it all fits together. So, the Alan Parsons Project's first album, not really a hitter for me, except for one of the songs called The Raven. But we're not talking about that album, we're talking about their next one from 1977, which to me is pretty much the golden era of classic rock. I'm not sure why, it's just every good song that I really like from that era is all around 1977, Night Fever, oh, and Come Sail Away, just songs like that. Like from 75 to 79, there were so many songs that I absolutely love, and I don't think there's any other time period that has more songs that I love. So in 1977, the Alan Parsons Project, which only had one album previously released their second album known as I, Robot, and that's I space Robot. I being capital and the R being capital. And this is basically a concept album, and this was released like right after Star Wars, and that also came out in 1977, and they were the first, like one of the only, or if not the only, music artists that had a robot on the album cover. So of course there's a correlation, and Star Wars was extremely popular, so iRobot was going to be at least a little bit popular, right? So yeah, a lot of people bought that album, and to me it might actually be their best album, because every single song on that album I like, except for one of them, which I think is actually filler, because it's basically split off from another song, but we'll talk about that again. So the tracks in iRobot, they go iRobot, which is an instrumental. That's the first track on the album. And then Wouldn't Want to Be Like You, it actually fades into it. Like all these songs, they fade into each other. It's really awesome. So iRobot, I Wouldn't Want to Be Like You, which is a really great song. Not an instrumental though. Includes lyrics. I think people would call it funk, but I don't even know what to call it. It's just awesome to me. I'm not really into genre classifications. The next song is Some Other Time, which the first time I heard it almost made me cry because of how awesome it is. Like I just wasn't expecting anything else on the album to be good, and that's the first sign that I took that I needed to listen to the whole album, was the third song, Some Other Time, which auto-played because I was listening to I Wouldn't Want to Be Like You, which I've known about for years and years. The next song on the album, I believe, is called Breakdown, and it's another non-instrumental song. And it's a pretty awesome song. In fact, it's one of the best examples that I have of Alan Parsons Project incorporating orchestral elements, synthesizer stuff, rock music, and choir stuff into the same song, and making it sound amazing and having it all mixed together really well. It's very clear that the Alan Parsons Project is just great at producing those kinds of songs, and that's part of the reason why I love them. It just sounds really good. So I think the fifth track on the album is called Don't Let It Show, which is kind of a saddish song. Pretty sure it's intended to be a sad song. It's not really an instrumental, but pretty much the second half of the song is an instrumental, and I'm not really sure what I think about that. It just kind of goes from being a sad song to like rising up, and then it just explodes into this funk or something. Super random, but it works, and to be honest, they do this quite often in the Alan Parsons Project albums. The next song on the album, I believe, is called The Voice, and it is definitely confirmed that this references to Big Brother, aka, cameras in the sky looking down at you, which, security cameras and stuff, that's what that means. And this one actually has less lyrics on it than a lot of the other songs in this album, at least that aren't instrumentals. And, that makes it kind of boring at first, but if you're listening to the whole album at once, it fits in very well, and in that spot it breaks the gap between that and the next song, which is called Nucleus, I believe, which is it was presumed to be some drug song, but I doubt that. And the writer of the song, Eric Wolfson, he kind of disproved this, but it's super random with like police chatter in the beginning of the song. It kind of sounds, to me, it sounds like you're walking in in like some kind of marine base facility where they store like nuclear fuel or something. And it's like a hyper secure environment, but there's like steam everywhere, and and there's police chatter off in the distance. That's what I see when I hear that song. But it's purely an instrumental piece, and it's like 2 or 3 minutes long. I wouldn't say it goes on far too long, but it kind of does drag on, at least for me, since I really like the last song in this album, which is another instrumental, but we'll get to that. But first, we have to talk about I don't even know what my ranking of songs in this album would be, but this is one of my favorite songs by the Alan Parsons Project at all, so there you go. It's called Day After Day, and in parentheses, The Show Must Go On. Now, again, I almost cried the first time I heard this song, like with headphones. Like all this music is so great with headphones. You have to just, put on headphones, close your eyes, and listen to the damn album. It is just fantastic. And Day After Day is a great example of how that can affect one. And I'm not great into going into meanings about songs, but to be honest, this one means a lot to me, and it kind of speaks to my position in life, where I don't want to waste a bunch of time. I don't want to get to, becoming too old and realizing I once knew what having time was, and I don't want to run out of time to do all the things I want to do. So I try to do as much as I can at once, to my detriment, of course, but this song means a lot to me because of just the point in my life that I'm at. I don't want to waste time. I want to do everything that I can in the moment. Although I'm not quite sure what the phrase day after day, the show must go on, is referring to in that aspect, so it's definitely not the analogy that Eric was using when he wrote the song, if he even wrote it, which I'm not actually sure who wrote it. And you might think it's actually Eric singing that song, especially since he sings a lot later on in the Alan Parsons Project albums. And he sounds quite a little bit similar to the guy who is singing, but no, that's not Eric Wolfson singing. If you've heard, the other albums, it's a guy named Jack. I forgot his last name, but I know his first name is Jack. And I actually can't find much information on him at all, so that's a bit weird. I know he made 2 other songs that came on one single record. It was like a double-sided record, and one was on one of the singles, and the other side was his other single, and that's pretty much all he did. So yeah, it's kind of a shame, because I really love that song. But past one of my most favorite songs by this group is one of my most hated songs in this group. Freaking Total Eclipse. I'm not sure why Total Eclipse is in this album. It's such a great album, and this song kind of ruins it for me, at least towards the end. But I think what is supposed to be going down is after day, you run out of time, and, the total eclipse happens, and, bad things go on, and then Genesis happens, which I don't know anything about the Bible, but I know that that's in there somewhere. But not this particular chapter, because the song title is, I think, like Genesis chapter 1 verse 16 or something, and I don't actually have that memorized yet for some reason. Apparently that actually doesn't exist in the Bible. Genesis chapter 1 exists, but not that verse or something like that. So, yay, new Genesis! And what's kind of awesome about this song is as it fades in, it actually sounds a lot like the beginning of the album. at the start of iRobot, you get the chorusing clav is what I'm gonna call it, because that's the closest thing to that noise that I've been able to replicate myself. iRobot fades in with that, and then when Total Eclipse fades into Genesis, we get that same sound, and I really like that sound. It just swirls all around, but when you actually cross the song barriers from Total Eclipse to Genesis, that's when the drums actually kick in, like when Genesis actually starts. And I really love the drums. I can't help like banging on the tables near me whenever I hear the song in the exact like beat of the drums, because, well, I play the drums. I'm not entirely good at them. My friends all tell me I'm great at them. I'm sure compared to them that don't actually play the drums, I'm really good, but to a professional drummer, I'm probably non-existent in terms of being a drummer. But I really like the drums of the song, and I listen to the song mainly for the drums and because of the bass guitar that's used. And actually the bass guitar, it actually goes like deeper and deeper farther into the song you go, and the fade out of the song is so long. I think the Genesis fading out might be the longest fade out I have ever seen in an album that I've listened to in full. It's just crazy. I'm sure there's some kind of Alan Parsons reasoning behind it, since he's the one that engineered all these albums and produced all these albums. It's the Alan Parsons project, and Eric Wolfson writes the lyrics, a lot like Elton John and the other guy. I even watched the movie. I don't know why I can't remember his name. There was like one guy who wrote the music and one guy who wrote the lyrics. That's like the Alan Parsons project, except in this group, Alan Parsons produces the music, does all the engineering and mixing and stuff, and Eric Wolfson writes all the songs. So that's been a quick look at the Alan Parsons Project album iRobot from 1977. Next time we might talk about The Raven, or we might talk about one of their later albums, like 1980s Turn of a Friendly Card, which is another weird album with a bunch of awesome songs on it. It's kind of bizarre because there's a concept album inside of the concept album. It's actually kind of cool. Anyways, this has been I Read Redux, and I'll see you all in the next I Read Redux video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. The drums come in once Genesis actually starts, like once you crush the threshold. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna crush your threshold. No, when you actually cross between the Total Genesis. I actually did make that. I actually merged the two songs together and called it Total Genesis. And I really love the drums in Total Genesis.